Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Here we are in the garden. It is a little bit later in Sunday morning. Yes. How about that? Jack's out with me early today. That doesn't happen all the time, but I thought I would try to get you a little bit of pretty here in the garden. The snaps are starting to do their thing, which is pretty cool. Tomatoes are looking really great right there. Peppers, chilies, the cucumbers, straw bales down there. Things are happening. I think this is episode 11, so this is our 11th weekend in a row out in the garden working on the rejuvenation. We fixed the water line at the end of last week, and then got rained out as we were putting the potatoes in the ground. Yes, I know, putting potatoes in the ground way too late, whatever. This is about rejuvenating the gardening, not telling you how to garden perfect, because I'll never do that. All right, he's already enjoying the warm. So started out a little cool, 70, but they say it's going to be almost mid 80s by 10 o'clock, so she's going to be a warm one. But it's a shorter list today, which is good. We're going to clean up the area by the water line, fix over there, and then the last corner of the garden on the other side of the straw bales, that is going to get done. And then the whole thing is going to get weeded. So let's get after it. And then, and then we'll have coffee soon. It's somewhat comical thinking how big of an area that is right there for the weeds, but in comparison to how much we've taken out of the whole garden, it's not that much. So a nice day's work will get that done. Balancing kind of digging up the weeds and then going and weeding in between some of the planted. That little bit of area hard to see right there, but that is where all of the basil and the cilantro and the Italian parsley is growing. And then I added another black bucket. So the area that I dug up to fix the water line, there's a lot of little gravel, little boulders. I shouldn't call them boulders, but just rocks, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch rocks that I kind of pick out as we weed and kind of just work the garden. Get really quite lucky if you go about 500 feet to the west of the garden, which is towards the blue carriage house. There is the Cannon River. And if you go a half mile on either direction of that, you run into the bluff. So this is River Valley over the last who knows how long. But so we have about 2 to 3 feet of topsoil in this area. So really nice loamy topsoil. Underneath that, we have gravel deposits, upwards of 2 to 3 feet of gravel deposits. And then below that, we run into limestone or just bedrock. And that makes for a really well-drained soil. But some of the bedrock works its way up, and some of those rocks work their way up when you're down, just working the soil a little bit. And so, kind of like I said, bouncing in between. Not that I can't stay on task there. My task is the whole big garden, getting it done today, but I like doing a little bit of hoeing, kind of feeling that, emptying weeds, and then come back and dig a few more weeds, getting them out of the way there. The weeds here are a little bit more established. They haven't been rototilled or anything since the spring, so you can see how weeds really can take over a garden when they're left. But overall, the soil is fairly loose, so they dig up fairly easy as we're doing that. And it's about time for Michelle to join us in the garden. I think she pops in here fairly quick, and then Jackson runs over to say good morning. And I kind of keep hoeing. I know it'll be time to make coffee soon, so I'm going to get the straw bales a nice little drink of water. They do take a fair amount of water. We'll do a overall how I think straw bale goes video at some point here, and that'll be fun. Well, I thought I'd give the straw bales a quick drink before I head in. It's time to make coffee. I've been summoned to make coffee. So, time for a break. Almost done getting the water line area cleaned up. And then this is the last little corner to clean up right here, but that's going to be after coffee and a little breakfast. But before we can get to that corner, we must finish the water line area. And it's going pretty good, so digging it out, and then I'll be hoeing the soil in. Yeah, most people would just shovel it all in, but it's nice to pick all the little weeds out of there, pick all those little rocks. And when we finally figure out exactly what we're going to be planting there, it will be all ready to go. But a lot of that's coming out in big patches of weeds and just knocking some of the soil out of there. And finding garden friends, learning a lot about toads this year. Actually, some of their tunneling habits. I think I have maybe some gophers or something, but it might be toads. Still doing research on that. If you know anything about how toads tunnel, let me know. This is not one of the big ones, but I thought I would share with you what he looks like. There he is. Cute little eyes, the composters as I call them sometimes. Great guys to have in the garden. But he will get relocated. Yeah, Jack doesn't care about toads. He's like, yeah, whatever. But great little guys to have in the garden. They are off to get relocated, and there's just one little patch of that area left to go, and it is going to happen fast. But you can see kind of just the volume of weeds that are coming out of there. I'm filling multiple buckets as we go, but it sure looks good when we finish that area. And voila, there we are, back to the original, all weed free. And then we're going to knock out in between the straw bales. A couple videos ago you saw where I took most of it out of there and did the first of the weeds, and you can get a good look at that 3-tine digger hoe with a stirrup side that I've been using, my favorite hoe of the year. Works really nice. In between there I'm loosening up that soil and just disrupting any of the small weed seeds that have sprouted and started. And as dry as it's been, pull them up to the top and they die off fairly quick. All right, tackling the corner. This is the last big patch. Kind of been putting it off because it's on the other side of the straw bales, and maybe doesn't matter, but I have selective OCD, which means I square things up and do things only when I think I want to do them. But squaring up the garden, that will make it look great. And that is what you call a mid-afternoon beer break. You need to stay hydrated when you're working in the garden. Very, very important. All right, that little corner is done, so now it's just kind of a marathon of hoeing and knocking down all those little weed seeds. Here's a great little view. You can see, kind of looking at my feet, that right in that area where I haven't hoed, there's all those small, teeny little weed seeds that have sprouted. And so if you just go in there and pull those up to the top of the soil and knock them around a little bit, they will dry out, even with the oncoming rain that we're going to have. So now we're getting close to the last of the established weeds in the garden coming out, and the last little bit in the walkway area by the water line. So very, very close to having the garden weeded. And it's really good timing to be catching a lot of this grass, these last few weeds, because they're just about to go to seed. So we're not going to have any seeds like that going into the garden this year, or not as many. All right, that's it. That right there. Is it, remember, I think episode 8, 7, 8, putting the tomato cages in around the peppers, and I hit the one rock? Well, every time I find a rock, the rock, I throw it in a pile, and that's the pile. I think I've made a decision. It's just gonna go over there and get stacked up. A true dry stone work of art for you, Mr. Arabella. That's what it'll be. All right, afternoon break time. Yes. Yes, by now you've picked up on that. Afternoon break time means reward beer. Because we are so close, the last of the weeds are coming out. There they go. All of the rock has been moved over to the little dry stone wall sculpture thingamajigger, and it's time to just pick up some of the prunings of the day and get ready. We're going to do just a small walk around the garden and just show you where we're at. How exciting. Future path. The tomatoes in their first cage, a couple of the big cages on there. The pumpkin is doing great there. Sunflower seeds and a few little weeds are up. The big rhubarb, remember the rhubarb pie, straw bales, all kinds of things growing in the straw bales down that corner. Looks so good right there. Yes, it does. Got a little glimpse over towards the house there, and a couple of pergolas over in the yard. Fixed water line area, the cucumber ladder, more flowers, zinnias, peppers, and that first flower pot of the season. There it is. Well, it's all about timing, I guess. So just finished picking up, putting some things away, and the rain has held off for the afternoon, but it is just starting to sprinkle now. It sprinkled a little bit earlier, but it's really starting to sprinkle now. Supposed to get a nice soaking tonight, which would be okay. Haven't had one for a while. How about that? The rejuvenation, if that's what we've been calling this. I'm not gonna say it's complete, but I think we're at this point where we're back to where we were. So maybe it's not rejuvenating anymore. Maybe we're moving forward from there. If you have a great word, leave me a comment down below. Pretty exciting. I think I mentioned it, maybe not. This is episode 11 of kind of at home in the garden with Glenn and Michelle. She's got the bucket of beer over there. She's getting that inside. Last of the rejuvenating, obviously, we got it there. The next couple of videos coming out of here, really excited. They're going to be focusing on installing the garden path, the paver pathway, the garden path walkway over there. So 2 or 3 videos about how to install a garden path, pavers. That's going to be pretty cool. You'll want to check that out. The next real video about, you know, what's happening in the garden, we're going to do a midsummer. So it is the end of June right now, so probably in sometime the beginning of August when things have filled out a little bit more. Maybe we'll even make some salsa, and we can have a little salsa party and do a midsummer garden tour. So look forward to that. When that happens, you'll see a card up there. Ding, just like that. Hey, thanks so much for following along. Find that subscribe button down there and give it a smash. Just subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, ding, and like the video, leave me a comment. Always appreciate it when you ask a question or just say, hey, it's looking good. Appreciate that. So, pretty doggone special, kind of a good day. We're gonna have a couple more reward beers. That's about it from At Home in the Garden with Glenn. Thanks again so much, and enjoy.